Hey folks, welcome back. It's me, Dachshund Wedge. Today we're going to be looking at Ghostwire Tokyo, doing an overview of the photo mode there, and also talking a little bit more in depth about ray tracing and how that affects photo and photo quality and what the best settings for that should be, I think. I'm not directly talking while doing this like I normally do, because I wanted to talk a little bit about ray tracing first, and I needed to prep some comparison images and think a bit about how to structure it, and I think I have some interesting results for you, including like what your best settings probably should be if you're interested in taking good quality photos but also don't have an amazing computer. So first up, what is ray tracing and why is it important? So ray tracing is the process through which computers simulate light rays bouncing around off reflections and things. You're tracing the ray of light. So that's what ray tracing is, and if you're interested in photography, you know light is super important to photography. So having more realistic light, more ray tracing tends to be better and make your photos look better overall. Reflections are really nice, and this is a game with a lot of water reflections, a lot of reflections on slick concrete, and a lot of different colors and lights that really look good in the photo mode, especially if you have ray tracing on. Today, I went through and messed with the ray tracing settings. Now, effectively, there are 3 modes for ray tracing. There's more toggles to it, but the real modes are ray tracing completely off, ray tracing on, but with shadow quality, refraction quality, and culling quality set to low or off, and then ray tracing completely off. And I'll show some comparisons here. If you look, the ray tracing off and ray tracing on, but shadow quality, reflection quality, quality set to low, look pretty similar to me. If you turn ray tracing on and set everything up to high, you can see the difference is actually, it's not huge, but there are some differences with a few of the lights, like some of the reflections tend to be brighter by the windows. You can see in the puddle in the bottom left, the reflection shows up a bit better than it does when ray tracing is off. So you do get a little bit better reflections if you have ray tracing on. So I recommend if you're taking photos to have ray tracing on and set to high. Now, when I do this, it causes my computer to chug a bit. And I don't have a slouch for a computer. It's not top of the line, but it isn't a cheap computer either, so it should be able to handle a lot. So this is what I think I'm going to do and what I think you should be doing if you're interested in getting high quality photos, but also want your game to not slow down while you're just walking through the streets. So this ray tracing setting that you can toggle on and off, you have to restart the game for that to take effect. So you basically, if you're playing the game and you want to be able to stop and take photos, you should leave that on. However, the quality settings, shadow quality, reflection quality, culling quality, you don't actually have to restart the game for. So what I recommend and what has worked for me so far is to leave ray tracing on and then set the shadow quality, reflection quality, and culling quality to low or off. And then when you want to take a photo, come into the settings and turn them all back up to high while you take the photo, and then turn them back down when you want to play again. And that way you can play the game without the game chugging on walking through the streets, but you can also get high quality photos with all the nice ray tracing detail that you want. All right, now we're gonna go and look at the actual photo mode itself and try to take an interesting photo now that we know this ray tracing tip. Okay, so I think something like this might work. I like having the tree and like the older architecture right next to the very modern architecture, sort of looking at cutting out the big building over here and just keeping the trees, the gate in, the hotel, and like this. So like I mentioned before going into photo mode, I'm turning everything up to high. And then photo mode is just in the start menu. You pause, go click on photo mode, and you get to see photo mode. By default, it goes in your player's position, and you can't move. You can just rotate around. I don't like this. The photo mode, selfie mode toggle, I think is better. This lets you, you rotate around and move a bit, so you can adjust and get your camera really low or whatever. There is also filters. There's only 2 filters, monochrome, sepia, and nothing, which is not a filter. There's an emote thing. There's only 3. I didn't find any of them super awesome, but if you want to pose, that's what they're there for. Field of view is nice, you know, can zoom out for wider angle, can zoom in, which I think is probably what we're going to do here. And then you can also hide the player in selfie mode, which I think makes the other mode obsolete. I just always, I think, am going to go into selfie mode whenever I take a photo. That's just going to be my operating procedure, is turn off selfie mode, go into photo. Okay, I think I like this photo. But that's really the only settings. It's just those 3 settings. Most games I've played have things like depth of field or brightness, contrast, color versus like just 3 filters. Time of day atmosphere, I think understandably is not here, although it would be nice to be able to turn the rain on and off for the photos. I think leaving it as night is sort of by design, that's intentional. You know, the key thing is stay in selfie mode for the entire thing. Field of view is really your main toggle, especially if you're not interested in taking pictures of the player. And that's about it. It's a pretty simple photo mode. Definitely doesn't have all the other complicated stuff that a lot of other games do, but with the ray tracing and lighting, I still think I'm going to really enjoy going through this game and taking photos. And we'll see if I come back and find anything else, especially if you look on the left. There's lots of like volumetric fog that I think is really cool. You can see the lighting on the back of this gate, I think is really awesome. So I definitely am looking forward to seeing where this goes. I think that the simplicity of the photo mode is not necessarily the end of the world. I think, you know, while it would be nice to have things like depth of field especially, it's going to be okay with the lighting and the graphical effects in this game. Should be still pretty fun to mess around with. So let me take this photo. And the screenshots you take are saved in the saved games folder in Windows. So if you go to your user folder in Windows and you go to saved games, and it's like under Tango Games, Ghostwire, you will eventually find a screenshots folder. I will post a link to where I got that information in the video description if you're curious where those screenshots are saved. Okay, so I think that's about it for me. Ooh, rain. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed and find this helpful and informative, and I'll be back later with more videos either about this game or another one that has a decent photo mode.